Shooting games have become one of the most popular video game genres in the world, but in my opinion, none of them have the uniqueness and creativity that the Splatoon franchise has. The series is Nintendo's twist on the team shooter genre, and its Switch iteration is one of the most sold games on the console. The main difference between Splatoon and other shooting games is the ink mechanic, which grants players plenty of movement options and interesting ways to battle never seen before. This franchise is kinda like the Smash Bros of shooters. In Smash, you have a lot more freedom with your actions, and the movement performed resembles the one in platforming games. In traditional fighting games, you're locked onto an opponent and you can't face any other direction. On top of that, instead of trying to reduce the HP bar of your opponent, you try to rack up percentages to easily knock out your opponent off the stage. Splatoon is pretty similar thanks to the ink. Compared to other shooting games, you have a lot more liberty with your movement, and you can traverse areas in many different ways. Instead of killing your opponents, you take them down by spraying ink on them. Also, its art style is way more vibrant and cartoony compared to others, just like Smash. This interesting approach to the shooting genre is what makes Splatoon so fun to play. In this video, I'll try to go in depth about this game's mechanics and what makes it so amazing. Ink is the core aspect of Splatoon. It can be used in a variety of ways. Your character shoots ink with their main weapons and sometimes their sub-weapons. Firing it at enemies will hurt them and make them visible on the map. After inflicting a sufficient amount of damage, your opponent will be splatted and then respawned. You can also apply ink on any paintable area. This will grant you a lot of benefits. If there's ink of your color on a surface, you'll be able to swim in it, allowing you to move at a quicker pace and to climb walls. When moving very slowly on your turf, you won't be visible to other players, giving you a chance to ambush them. Though you do make ripples when you're swimming quickly, which can make you quite noticeable. However, this can be negated by an ability called Ninja Squid that we'll get more into later. To continue, when walking on enemy ink, you'll have your movement speed heavily reduced and you'll receive a bit of damage that thankfully won't be enough to splat you. These effects can be slightly mitigated with an ink resistance up ability. Also, your main and sub-weapon requires a certain amount of ink to be used. The amount of ink consumption varies between weapons, and if you don't have enough, the game will let you know. To get more ink back, you can simply swim on a surface coated with your paint color. You'll be able to see how much you have left with this gauge, or your character's ink tank. With all of this information, you can see how much of a key asset ink is. It's your main way to damage people, it's the quickest and safest navigation option, it acts as a resource management, and it sets up stage control. Turfing the map will always give you an offensive and defensive advantage against the opposing team. Every main weapon in the game fires ink and uses it in different ways. Some are primarily used for turfing, others are for close combat, or some weapons provide long-range support. Additionally, a large variety of them have unique gimmicks. Every class of weapon offers a different feel to the game, giving the players a multitude of playstyles. They all vary in terms of range, fire rate, and damage. First off, you have shooters. They're your standard shooting weapon. Holding down the trigger will make you spray ink automatically. Though, there are special shooters in the game, such as the Nozzle Nose, that shoots a burst of ink bullets after one press of the trigger, and the Squeezer, that fires powerful long-range shots at a tap of a button, but low-range shots when holding down the trigger. Next up are blasters. These weapons fire a big blob of ink that explodes. The radius of the blast does damage, which can let you hit opponents that are hiding around obstacles. Up next, we have rollers. These weapons have the unique ability to paint the ground while running. Most of them can splat opponents while doing this, making them useful in close quarter situations. Rollers can still throw ink like other weapons, although the Flingza and especially the Dynamo Roller have superior range. Brushes are slightly similar to rollers. They can also continuously paint the ground while running, but they can't splat players by doing this. They're still really good in close combat thanks to the speed of their attacks. Here we have chargers, the quote-unquote snipers of the game. They can instantly splat an opponent after fully charging the weapon. An exception to this rule is the Bamboozler, requiring 2 hits at a cost of a very fast charge time. Some charges allow you to store your charge even when swimming in ink. Next are Sloshers, one of my favorite weapon classes. They are bucket-like weapons that shoot a coat of ink in an arc. Just like the blasters, it can hit enemies hiding behind obstacles. They can be annoying to fight on slopes because of the trajectory of their ink. Here are the Splatlings. They are minigun-like weapons that have a very fast fire rate after charging it. They are similar to chargers, but instead of firing a single shot, they shoot out multiple ink drops, making them really good at turfing. Next up are the Dualies. They are a pair of pistols that grants the user the ability to perform a dodge roll. After rolling, the weapons all have different effects that enhance their performance for a while, such as an increased accuracy, more range, or more damage. And last but not least, we have umbrellas. These weapons fire the same way as a shotgun. They can also be used as a shield to protect you and your teammates from incoming attacks. All of these weapons come with a sub-weapon and a special weapon. Sub-weapons use a considerable amount of ink, so they are used sparingly depending on the situation. Some are good for splatting, while some are used for support and utility. On the other hand, special weapons don't use ink at all, and they actually refill your ink tank. However, you'll need to play in a certain amount of ink before using them. These weapons are all unique in their own right. Just like sub-weapons, they all have different roles. When used correctly, they can drastically change the tide of the battle. Players judge how good a weapon is based on their kit. If the main weapon synergizes well with its sub and specials, it's good. If it forces you to play an awkward playstyle due to its incohesive kit, then it isn't good. Still, a bad kit doesn't make the main weapon bad. If it can hold on its own, it's still a usable weapon, since subs and specials aren't supposed to be used as much as the main weapon anyways. So, what makes the kit good and synergistic? Well, the community divided every weapon into 3 roles. This helps players determine what playstyle they should use to play at an optimal level. A weapon's role is heavily influenced by its range. First off, we have Slayers. They are played aggressively due to their excellent performance at close range. These weapons are often fishing for kills. Then we have Support Weapons. As its name implies, its goal is to assist the team and make everyone's life easier by turfing and maintaining stage control with their ink output or solid range. And lastly, we have the Anchors. They are the backliners that watch over the team's blind spot. Because of their superior range, they don't get splatted most of the time and act as a beacon for its teammates to super jump too. With these roles in mind, you can kind of see what I mean when a weapon's kit doesn't synergize well. For example, let's take a look at the Neo Splushamatic. This shooter type weapon lacks range, but has very good killing power, making it a Slayer. Despite this, its kit doesn't quite suit the role at all. It comes with a beacon that serves more of a support purpose and it won't aid you in battle against an opponent. And its special weapon are the Tenta missiles. While it's good for disrupting the opposing team, it shouldn't be used in the front lines. Backliners would benefit more from this type of kit. On the other hand, the vanilla Splushamatic has a very good offensive kit. Curling bombs are a good movement tool that can compensate for your lack of range. And the Splashed Out special can help you in tight situations when fighting opponents. So after learning about these weapon classes, you might be thinking, what is the ideal team comp? Well, generally, a good and balanced team is 2 Slayers, 1 support, and 1 anchor. It can obviously be tweaked around depending on stage, mode, or opposing team. Well, if you're unfortunately like me, and you don't have a team and you just solo queue, you'll have to rely on Nintendo to give you a decent team comp. They do a decent job most of the time, but there are indeed some unlucky scenarios. It can be frustrating at times because of your disadvantage, but there's a certain fun to it. Because of the random factor of your team, battles are always played out differently. It will always be a new experience, especially because of the ink. The key to winning battles is usually by controlling the stage and using the ink at your advantage. With it, you'll be able to ambush opponents, escape quickly, and stall time from them. So at the beginning of the match, you'll have to carefully split it up to cover the most turf. Every second counts, so you want to take the quickest path while optimizing your movement as much as possible. Fights honestly look like an elegant dance. You see, when a face-off's about to happen, it's rare to see both players just jump at each other's throat. They usually play with the environment and try to find an excellent spot to secure the kill. For example, if a Slayer was against a midline weapon, the Slayer will have to try to get as close as possible to oppress the opponent, while the longer range weapon will try to do a tactical retreat while still putting out some sort of pressure. Or, if a Slayer is trying to deal with a backliner, it will have to throw out bombs to make the anchor move around and sometimes use detours to finish him off. Being able to adapt to the area and the ink around you will be very crucial. Because of the ever-changing environment, Splatoon battles are always intense. Not only that, but these fights are rarely the same, thanks to the customizability in the game. In Splatoon, you'll be able to buy various clothing items, each coming with a main ability, and after gaining enough XP, sub-abilities. These weapons all have different perks that can help you offensively, defensively, or support-wise. These abilities can totally change the playstyle of a weapon. For example, people who use the same weapon are obviously going to be doing the same role most of the time, but that doesn't mean they will fight the same way. Let's take a look at the Splat Dualies. Because this is a Slayer type weapon, people generally use the Ninja Squid ability for increased stealth. This ability hides the ripples and inklings that octolings do while swimming, which can help them ambush opponents. However, this ability reduces the user's swim speed. To compensate this, players decide to stack up the swim speed up ability. But some other players also might use a different build, a damage build. Dualies can increase the damage of their shots thanks to the main power up ability. So in some situations, you'll be able to do a 3-shot kill instead of 4. When comparing the two builds, we can see that a player using the first one will try to sneak up to the opponent as fast as possible and overwhelm them with their speed and stealth, while the second one will be a bit more bold in some situations due to the boosted damage at the cost of a slower swim speed. Now, there are definitely other abilities you can use with Splat Dualies, such as quick super jump and quick respawn since you're a Slayer, or an ink saver since your dodge rolls consume a lot of ink. There's definitely an optimal build out there, but it all depends on the player. And that's what's so special about Splatoon. It has such unique gameplay thanks to the ink mechanic, and the battles are always dynamic because of it. The variety of weapons and the multitude of abilities lets players express themselves and allows them to play in different styles. Each and every fight is a fresh experience. So, if you've ever wanted to try out a unique and original shooter game, Splatoon is definitely worth your time.